We're ready, Chair.
Okay, call to order. Welcome all to our October 1st meeting and our last meeting for 2024. Roll call,
Chair James,
yes, here.
Board Member Albert Brinkley,
Here.
Board Member Betty Brinkley,
Here.
Board Member Joseph Cooper, Board Member McCarty Grant, and Board Member Harvey.
Here.
Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Approval of agenda. A motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve of the agenda.
I second.
All right, thank you. Motion was made by Mr. Board Member Brinkley, and Mr. Harvey second the motion. And that was for July 2nd? Okay, 2024 for the East Stuart Historical Advisory Committee.
Chair, that was for the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Could we
okay.
just have an all in favor for the approval of the agenda?
Oh, here I am. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, all in favor? Motion and approved.
So the agenda has been approved. I now need a motion for the approval of the minutes.
Okay,
Okay, I make a motion for the approval of the minutes.
okay.
I second.
All right, approval for minutes have been made by Board Member Mr. Brinkley and second by Board Member Mr. Harvey for July 2nd, 2024.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion have been approved. All right. We have comments from the public.
I have none, Chair.
Okay, no comments from the public are submitted. So let's have any comments by board members for non-agenda items.
None.
Well, Madam Chair, I have some comments and questions that need some answers to. And first and foremost on top of the list is a vehicle on Martin Luther King Boulevard, which is formerly known as Harvey's Plaza. I spoke with the owner in the past about this vehicle that has a Confederate flag. And the only thing that has been changed is the vehicle. And this vehicle is right there on city property every single day with the Confederate flag on this vehicle. And I'll reiterate again, I spoke with the owner in the past about this, and the one that owned the vehicle, the only thing has changed is the vehicle itself. Right there on Martin Boulevard, which is formerly known as Harvey's Plaza. And if someone is that bold to have a vehicle parked there with a Confederate flag, what else would they do? And that is not and should not be acceptable at all. And it seems like there's no response that's being done about this. And that, like I say, if someone to do that right there, what else would you do? That's a rough situation that's occurring there. And it's been going on over a year. And like I say, I spoke with the owner about this. And this is a continuing thing there. Another thing with the community is still having issue with is with the kids being moved from the 10th Street Recreation Center to the Boys and Girls Club. That still is not sitting well with the community, especially with the parents, and I'm one of those parents. It's being considered as a community center, and when I dropped my granddaughter off from school last Wednesday to be Pacific, I'm standing there and I'm seeing all these cars pulling up there first thing in the morning, wasn't even 8 o'clock, and it was asked, what are these vehicles for? And the word was stated, oh, we having a Chamber of Commerce meeting. And that really upset me. You move our kids from there, but then you could bring in the Chamber of Commerce and have a meeting at the recreation center without our kids being taken in consideration, moved without the parents' consent. Parents didn't have no knowledge of these kids being moved to the Boys and Girls Club, but yet you could bring in the Chamber of Commerce and have a meeting there. Not only me have a problem with that, but the community have a problem with the kids being moved without any consent of the parents, any knowledge of the parents. The only way the parents found out was that night at the meeting. And that is not acceptable to move our kids out of the community without the parents' consent. And then bring in a Chamber of Commerce to have a meeting at the recreation center. That just, to me, is not acceptable. And I have a question for our CRA Director, Ms. Pinaro. I know the last meeting made mention about the heirs property assistance program, and I was wondering, is invitation is in progress now, where people can get that fund? Because I just talked to someone and they was like making a payment now on a $4,000 Harris's thing to get they trusted straightened out, and I wonder if that already is in place.
Right, so the budget was just approved last week, so, and our new fiscal year starts today. So we can actually start implementing the program, and we just signed an agreement with an attorney that will help us assist with the program. So yeah, it's moving forward. So if you have anybody that's interested, please send them my way. But we will be doing notices to all those property owners that are on our list and promoting the program moving forward.
Yeah, because like I say, they're making payment on $4,000, and they're making payment on that, and it hit me. That's why I asked, was it already in? So
Yeah,
you
so-
just answered it.
Yeah, so if you can send them my way, we'll have them work with the attorney that's going to assist us.
Even if they already,
Yeah, it has to be somebody that's in our program. So we actually have an attorney that'll help us with the probate cases. So it can't be something that they're already implemented. It has to be
Yeah.
a new case, yeah.
yeah, it's already done. They already started. That's why I asked.
Okay, but
Just in
maybe-
case I run into anybody else in that situation.
Would that be transferred if, it depends on where they are with the process. You know, I'll need to have a conversation with them directly. The city attorney could.
Lee Baggett, city attorney for the record. Typically, the probate lawyers will do it on a flat rate, like a couple grand, few grand or whatnot. I think you mentioned $4,000. So they probably got paid a flat rate. But if they just started, they might be able to say, hey, we can get it free over here, so we want to, terminate the services. But it would probably depend on the contract and what all that attorney has already done.
Yeah, from my understanding, I think they already done moved forward in the progress,
Might be
yeah.
too late at this point, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Pinal said, today is the first day of the year, fiscal year for the city, so now we can go forward with it. So,
Okay.
and we do have a local attorney here in Stuart that accepted, and we accepted the work on the program and for a set rate for each project, or each home. So I think we're ready to go.
okay, all right, appreciate that. And Madam Chair, I just have a couple more. I'm concerned about the gutter company on the corner where I live at. That's in a historical building. That's in the morning time. You hearing all this racket, and my thing is that wouldn't happen in no other community. But it's right there in the East Stewart community on the corner, and we have to hear this racket in the morning time with the gutter company in a historical building. We all pretty much know what that building was. Club 19, very historical place, but a gutter company, where else would that be in a residential community? It just wouldn't happen that way. And that hurts, and it's irritating to see that and to have to deal with that. Traffic, speeding trucks up and down my street. That just wouldn't happen nowhere else, and that's really upsetting to me and our neighbors. And basically, it's one of my neighbors that's right there, basically in her backyard, basically. You really look at it, it's right in her backyard, and that's irritating to hear. And just deal with this traffic and this noise in the morning time. I want to go back to our CA director concerning that community block grant that was did in the past. Was there any other way besides putting a lien on people's property? Was there a way that you could have a contract signed that they would not sell or move out the house instead of, because to me, a lien just doesn't look proper being put on a property. I just wondered, was it in other way to handle that situation? Because me personally, a lien doesn't look, I know nobody else sitting on here, but a lien just doesn't look too good on
Right.
that.
These are federal regulations, so it's not something that we adopted.
Oh,
It's-
okay,
We're complying with their rules and regulations.
okay. And is there any more money anywhere for the community? Because I'm running into this basically every time I'm out in the community about people needing work done on their house. And it hurts to see this because all I can tell them is I don't know. And I'm running into that issue all the time. People asking where they could get money from the fix on the house, and that is really needed in that community, Easter community. It's really needed for homes to be repaired, and people is asking me that question all the time when I'm out there in the community. And I just wonder if there's any funds for people to get to fix up their home, because people is really asking, it's really needed in that community. It really is.
Well, we have the Brush with the Kindness program that we do work with Habitat for Humanity with, so they could get assistance through that program. We also have a SELF program. There is a low interest fee with that, but they could get qualified to receive some funding, financial assistance through that program, and the CRA does match up to $3,000 for that. So there's a match for that. And then we have just a very small amount where we pay up to $500 for any exterior improvements. I know that the development department is supposed to be working on some program that they want to implement, so I can have Jody, our development director, reach out to you to see, what kind of assistance East Stewart is looking for, and it would be something that she wants to implement through the building department that she had mentioned to me, so I can bring it up to her.
Yeah, 'cause I appreciate that, because that's really needed. And like I say, I'm running into that issue all the time in the community. People is asking for funds to keep their house, to bring it up to a decent standard. And like I say, that's really needed in the community.
Is it like code violations? Are they like not up to code?
If that has to be, some probably would be, but people just want to improve their home, which is understandable.
Yeah.
I know nobody wants to live in their house just be in any kind of condition, and some house that I see is really needed. I know an elderly woman, someone came up to me and she needs a roof for elderly woman and stuff like that. When the stuff repaired like that there, and people always tell me, I could paint my own house. I don't want nobody buying me no paint. I just want my house fixed up to bring it up to, good standards. So if that can be, anything could be done with that there, that definitely would be appreciated for us, a community, something like that.
Is the community ready? I'm sorry, I'm having this conversation. Is the community ready for another paint up program? I know in the past where, we had selected some homes and volunteers to come out and paint, so many homes at one time. Is the community ready? Because I know we're not getting as many requests for paint up program from the community because it seemed like we already painted a lot of the homes there. But if there's a need for volunteers to come out and paint some of the homes there, we can try to help organize something like that, because that was something that CRA has done in the past.
Yeah, you're right, absolutely. But what I'm hearing now is people are saying, I could buy my own paint. I would like for my house to get fixed. But it was a good program when it was being done, but majority of people, what I'm hearing now is they prefer to get some work done in the house, and they always tell me, I can afford to buy my own paint. I just want my house
Could I-
fixed up.
Is it possible for the CRA to put together a workshop on how to improve my house, to get some assistance, just ideas of what they can do to improve their house? Could a workshop come about?
I would have to look into what kind of program. It could only be exterior improvements. So we could even coordinate with Habitat for Humanity and have them come out and evaluate the homes and what it needs and kind of provide us with the scope of work
Yes,
that needs to be completed on certain homes. And yeah, it's possible.
Give them an idea of what they can
If you can provide me
do.
contact information, who's looking for this assistance, I can work with them individually and I can coordinate with Habitat. If there's,
So is there a possible chance of an idea of doing that, putting together some type of workshop? so
well,
people
instead
can
of
come and
workshop, I
ask?
think if I have a list of properties, then I can have Habitat go out and actually look at those properties, evaluate them, and see what kind of work needs to be done and put together a scope.
But then that
Because
would be-
even the workshop, I don't know how, people are just going to tell us what's wrong, but we can't really evaluate these homes. We really need a list
Yeah.
from, if you have some people that are interested, provide it to me and I'll work with them individually.
Yeah, because when you go to rehabbing a home, you could run into some things, unforeseen things.
Right.
So that's, and then on the other thing, you owning a property doesn't mean you have money, and a lot of people might not can afford. Like Habitat charges you, so everybody might not afford to pay. So if there is somewhere grant money can be gotten to help these people in need like that, that can be a big help also.
With that CRA money, is that strictly for business? Because I was at a meeting years ago in here, when I forget his name, got up and asked if could he use so much of that money to revitalize over here. So they got it done, $1 million, they got it. I came up here years ago, and I asked, my yard is ridiculous, and nothing but rocks. They came in there, put rocks, big boulders in there. And I came out to ask, for some money, and I was told they can give me $250. I'm saying, what is $250? You know what I'm saying? What do that do? That's what I was told about that, CRA. So is there special people get that CRA money?
We have a business improvement grant that we've implemented since 2014, where we pay up to $10,000 for exterior improvements to businesses. For residential, we have up to $1,000 that we pay for exterior improvements. So it is a little bit less, but we do have a program for residential. It's $1,000, up to $1,000.
Up to 1,000?
Also, go ahead, Ms. Betty.
And then another thing about the Stuart Civic Center, rec. A lot of parents told me, really what he was saying wasn't, they wasn't notified. They talked to me about it, And another thing is like, okay, these kids go to school from 7:30, something like that, until they're out 2. So if they wanted to use that for that kind of meeting, that was fine, but you didn't have to keep the kids out. there for them to have that meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning, stuff like that. They could have worked together. And my understanding, if I'm wrong or whatever, they got a grant from it. The city didn't have to pay for it. Or if I'm wrong about that, the city, it didn't come out the city budget or whatever. It
No,
was a
that's
grant.
not coming out of the city budget.
So what's the problem? I wonder,
I think these matters should probably be brought up at city commission meeting if the city attorney wants, because I really don't have any response to some of the concerns that are being brought up about the Boys and Girls Club and the recreation center. I think those need to be addressed at the city commission meeting.
And so should I also bring up before them about all that traffic on 10th Street, because the kids got to cross on the south side, they're crossing from the south on 10th Street to get to the elementary. And you got all this traffic coming through, trucks and all this, or the city commission or something, meeting like that. I bring that up about that, too much traffic on 10th Street, and we got the kids crossing. I stand out every morning with my great-grandson, watching him to make sure the cars, because he's 8 years old and stuff, he loved to walk to school, he don't want to ride. So I'm watching him, and I'm looking at all this traffic, coming through. Why not Martin Luther King, and make that not a through, local traffic only, because you got the big old truck with the big old trailer coming through there. It's too much traffic on there. And then another thing I had about the Bright Line. I'm sitting up in the meeting, and here come the Bright Line. I think the first one I didn't get, the second one, the last one. And I think his name, he said, it only gonna do 2 stops in here. If you catch the train in the evening, you gotta stay down there and wait till the next morning. Like, something wrong with that. To me, something wrong with that picture. You can't go down and come back in the same day or something. I'm missing something, and I need to get clarification, more clarification on that. So to me, that just don't compute, a waste of time.
Board Member Brinkley, the city commission had voted a couple of meetings ago to cancel the Bright Line agreement. So as it sits today,
It's still,
we're not going to have a station.
you're not.
Well, we aren't, the city. So just so you know, just to give you a little history, in 2018, I don't know if you remember back then, there was a big campaign, Say No to Choo-Choo, a lot of signs and all. So the county, Martin County, sued Brightline to prevent them from coming through the county in a litigation. Also Indian River County as well. They sued Brightline because they were coming through the Treasure Coast. The county did not go all the way to the trial, but they settled with Brightline before trial. And part of the settlement was that within 5 years of coming through our county, they're gonna have to build a train station either in Martin County or St. Lucie County. And it said in there that there'll be 2 stops each direction each day. This was just a settlement agreement between the county and Brightline. And it was a 2018 settlement agreement. I know that's been brought up multiple times. But the city was never part of the settlement agreement. We never joined the lawsuit. And so obviously the train started going through the county, and so that 5-year window started ticking. So Brightline had to make a decision to build a station in St. Lucie County or Martin County. They went out for public request for proposals, and so the city joined up with the county last December and made a proposal with the county for a Brightline train station in downtown Stuart. And there's a bunch of, the county does this, city does that. We share in our proposal to Brightline. Fort Pierce also submitted a proposal to Brightline. And there was a bunch of private entities, I think around Jensen Beach. There was another private entity that proposed, and I heard a couple of others in Fort Pierce that proposed that are not governmental, just private entities that own land on the tracks. But Brightline ultimately selected the Martin County and City of Stuart. And we had tentatively entered into some agreements. Like I said, the city had agreements with the county and the city had agreements with Brightline. And we had an election, and the new board voted to cancel the recently entered into agreements that the county and the city had with Brightline. So just so you know, as far as the current status of that is, there is no station coming. The contracts were canceled by the current board. We did get some input from the board at the last meeting to open up negotiations with Brightline and the county again. So we're in the initial stages of that. It's possible we might still negotiate something with Brightline, but nothing concrete at this point in time. But that 2 stops that you're mentioning, that was part of a settlement agreement the county had from 2018. And that was all it was, really. I remember being in meetings and Brightline intended on having more than 4 stops a day, depending on ridership and so forth. There was a lot of discussion about that. You could have maybe 8 or 9, 10 stops. I know Boca Raton is probably a comparable station. It's, they built one and they have a station open now, and they have a lot more than 4. They have a higher population than we do, so, but there would probably be more than 4, definitely more than 2 stops. But that's probably what you're getting the confusion. It was just a settlement agreement that said this is the minimum that the county agreed with Brightline, 7 years ago or 6 years ago. Does that make sense? So,
Okay.
but we're negotiating, and that is a term that we intend on negotiating with Brightline to up the minimum. So you may, I guess, stay tuned. We may have some more information coming in the near future.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
Sure.
And there was another issue about the tax in East Stewart, people taxes going up. And the majority of the people over there ain't making no $20,000 over there at East Stewart, over there making that kind of money. And the majority of them on a fixed income. And alleged somebody say, so what if the tax go up, they go up. So, I mean, you're on a fixed budget and stuff, and your taxes steady going up, and you gotta keep up with the economy, and the government only give you raise so many years of stuff, so they go to city with some more houses over there in East Stewart. That's how I see it.
It's my understanding that the property appraiser was increasing values around where the proposed train station was going to be by the courthouse because of Brightline. I had heard that rumor going around. But if your property is homesteaded, if you live in your home and you have it homesteaded, you're capped at 3-4% a year of going up anyway. So people that are living in their home and it's homesteaded, it wouldn't matter. Our properties have gone up significantly over the last decade anyway, but if you're homesteaded, it can only go up, I think, 4% a year.
Yeah, and another
So-
thing what gets me, in America, you can pay for that house, but you never own it. You never own that house, and that me like, you don't pay that taxes, you lose it. And
Well-
that's beyond me though. In this great nation, you never own it. And you don't own it. You pay for it, you don't own it.
Well, if you and the bank own
Tax
it.
me some
and
other kind of way. Don't tax my house. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Ms. Brinkley, and Board Member Mr. Harvey, and Board Member Mr. Brinkley. Any other comments from the board at this time?
I'll be brief. Just, I hope we continue to make progress with, as part of this committee to, as we continue to make progress as to the project. I think we're going to be mentioning, I guess, the update of the Guy Davis Park is a part of the agenda.
Correct, yeah.
So hopefully we'll continue to make progress on that. Plus, we also have the MLK improvement as a part of our historical advisory committee responsibilities, is ensuring that when these improvements are coming about, this is our kind of role to kind of ensure that this stuff is memorialized, the historic aspects of the community. That's one way we can kind of continue to champion that effort. But the city, of course, has to appropriate the funds to move these projects forward. So hopefully that will continue to happen from the commission. That's all.
Thank you, Board Member Mr. Cooper. To be brief and just really top off some of the concerns of our board members, I'd like to see maybe not these things just be tabled, but to go through a process where they can be placed somewhere in agenda, if it's with city commissioners or if it's back with our board, that these items just don't fall by the wayside. And I just was concerned about this just going unnoticed. And just we're speaking, but where's the process for action? And then as the Paint Up program that's been there for a while, is there any way, and I don't know, Ms. Pennell probably has the answer, or thank you, our attorney as well, for speaking on these, to reroute or transfer those funds, maybe a couple of years, to help those families and homeowners out there that need a roof, to give them partial payment or some type of a grant instead of the paint program. I think they get, what, 500 or something like that? I don't know what your budget is in there that you've allocated, but maybe you can take a look at how we can just say, let's transfer that this year. We're going to table that and give it another name, but the funds are there to help our people. Those are my comments. All right, moving right along. Action item on our agenda. Oh, before we move on, please, Ms. Jordan asked for us to do some homework for our East Stuart Historical Advisory Committee to bring in any information or things that we can help to add to where we're moving forward to in the first phases. And I do have information, but I'd like to find out how or when can I meet with you or Ms. Jordan to really kind of go through what we want, or maybe even this board have a meeting like we're having now, but it's on the agenda, and we can lay things out and pinpoint or highlight, because it's so much, and pull it from that and put it into the right category for the future park.
Sure. Let me go through the presentation, and then we can discuss what elements you would like to implement as part of the master plan,
Okay.
if that helps.
Yes, okay, thank you, Ms. Pennell.
So I'll go ahead and give a brief presentation on where we are with the Guy Davis Park and the East Stuart Public Art Master Plan. You, as a subcommittee, played a big role in developing this master plan. So we really appreciate your contribution to this master plan. So here you will see that we worked very hard to develop the master plan for the park. We actually worked outside the scope to make sure that all the additional comments that we received were also phased in as a result of the development of this park, and how we can work very seamlessly with what we originally set out to do for the park. As you know, we took time to pause and to really build relationship with the community, to let them know that the improvements is actually for the betterment of the overall community as a whole. We're really excited to present this master plan that was developed through the participation of the community members, and a lot of the feedbacks that we received from you and the other community members as part of the process. A lot of the community members shared data, photographs, and other information towards this effort. We met in this room on several occasions with the subcommittee, and we had a lot of discussion, as you know, on how we wanted to celebrate the community and acknowledge the value that they brought to the overall neighborhood. Some of the takeaways that we heard were there were 6 main themes that we wanted to celebrate through that. One was celebrating women in leadership, particularly recognizing the women at the Stuart Training School who were the leaders of teaching young people and how to be active in the community. The participants also wanted to celebrate the migration of different pioneer families that came here, and of course, acknowledging Mr. Guy Davis and his contribution to the community. The group wanted to celebrate educators, celebrate the impact of sport, and celebrating the Black historic businesses, particularly with the focus of entrepreneurship that some of the businesses had in the community. So we have compiled all of that together in the East Stuart Public Art Master Plan, which we see as a first step as a living document that we'll continue to add from time to time so that this history doesn't get lost. We are limited to some of the information that we've received so far. That's why we continue to communicate with the community to share that data with us, so we can continue to add to this master plan and have a more complete document over long run, over time. Part of the master plan includes understanding what the values of the public art is. You'll see a lot of historical images that we were able to get from the East Stewart community in the master plan. We talked about educational components as to what public art is. And next in the plan, we have a lot of guiding principles, particularly for the artists, so that they understand how to frame their work and the approach that they need to use that is sensitive to the feedback that we've received so far. We want something that's unique and appropriate that represents the community. We provided a lot of guidelines for the artists, and those are all laid out in different categories, such as how do you support the local culture and local businesses, how do you provide economic benefit, just how are you true to the overall history? So beginning of the document really talks about the artists and how, the type of artwork that we want to see. The plan includes criteria that the city could use to evaluate the artwork. Those include artistic merit of the overall art piece, sense of place and how it fits into the community, durability of this artwork. We want something that's going to last, not fade away in 2 to 3 year period, so that those criteria have to be evaluated when selecting artwork. We provide concept or ideas to be able to guide the artists in providing the artwork. So there's three main themes that we wanted to derive from bigger ideas. Those are celebrating the heritage of the East Stewart neighborhood. Next, celebrate the environment in which these individuals live and the character of the Stewart area as a whole. And then, of course, the identity and celebrating the pioneers and diversity within the overall community. Major components that made up the art pieces that would be part of phase one. The overall, the first step was to include 5 different art components that we want to lay out throughout the park. Part of the park program includes parking on the south side with flexible event space. That'll give us an opportunity to provide farmers market, movies in the lawn, overflow parking in that pervious area. In the middle park, you'll see multi-purpose field, and then on the north side, you'll have behind the existing recreation center, we have the new stage, lawn area, restroom, concession building, and children's playground that will be rehabbed with water misters. So within there, we want to embed opportunities to provide artwork. So those were originally not part of the original scope, and they're not part of the budget, but it's important that these get incorporated as part of the overall park design. So we want to have components so that way we know what the pricing of these artwork will be and prioritize them into the park project. First is a Guy Davis entrance sculpture. So I'll walk you through these different artwork that were discussed with the subcommittee. The first one is a Guy Davis entrance sculpture. And for the namesake of the park, which is Mr. Guy Davis, we want to have some sort of entry feature that celebrates him. And one thing that we heard over and over again, that he was most recognized by his hat and the fact that he wore a hat. We have a lot of sculpture. We have a hat sculpture made up of a ribbon. The idea is that this type of ribbon is tying everything together. The outside of the ribbon is royal blue and the inside is gold, which represents the color of Spectrum School. So we wanted to bring the whole history together with this overall component. Next is the Pioneer Mosaics. We also wanted to celebrate the pioneers of the community. We're working with architect so that the part of the structural system has panels so that we could put we have an opportunity to put some mosaic artwork on these panels on the concession building. So different artists will have an opportunity to put some art components there. We'll be looking at different mosaics that celebrates the pioneers of our community. Next is the Sports Walk of Fame. We wanted to celebrate Sports Walk of Fame. These will be the components that we embed within the concrete with plaques, and they celebrate different members of the community that have gone on and done great things in sports world. Next is the women's mural, which will be on the east side of the park. You can see there's an image on top right where we have the overhead utilities. Those will be undergrounded, so we can have a sight line clearance, and that'll give us an opportunity to be able to see that facade. And currently, as you can see, it's a blank wall, has mold, mildew, and kind of like an eyesore. And so we want to work with that property owner and create a mural, women's mural, to celebrate the valiant role women played in the overall community for East Stewart. Next is the Educator's Hand. We created a plaza on the south side of the park, which would be right next to the area that we allocated for skate park. One other thing we took away from those subcommittee meetings was involvement with the school and educators. It was a critical component to ensure that there was some sort of advancement for the community. So the notion here is whenever someone wants to participate, what do? They raise their hand in class to be called. So we use that as a symbol, and the idea is that these art sculptures will be hands raised, and they'll look like a sculpture garden. But then the wing of it will have information on the historical figure with images and narrative of what they contributed to the community, so we can celebrate those individuals in this plaza area. Resilience and entrepreneurship. This is one that is not necessarily incorporated into the park project and can be programmed separately. So much of our community gets lost when we lose buildings. And I've heard over and over from the East Stewart community when a building is demolished that we're losing history. But this program will help us, will give us an opportunity to recognize some of the buildings that are no longer there. Such as a corner store or something that had a real distinction in the community, so that the history doesn't get lost. And then this is something that we could start working on immediately. The park project is a little different because it needs to be programmed within the park. So the next steps are we are finalizing our 60% plans by the end of this year. We plan to have a community outreach meeting early 2025 to get your final feedback on the project. We plan to go out for permitting in summer 2025, advertise for bid by fall 2025, and we expect to start construction late 2025 and end in 2026. So that is a timeline for the park project. As far as the art components in the park, we will have the contractors construct all the infrastructure for the artwork, but the actual artwork will have to do a call for artists, and then the master plan will be amended, and we will include some of the call for artists, so it includes details and specs that we could use when we do the call for artists. We'll advertise in the newspaper what we're looking for as far as the art components for the park. We're also, as you noticed, we don't have the items we discussed for MLK Streetscape. Again, this is a working document, so we are going to be amending this document to include some of the art component that we discussed for MLK Streetscape project. So while we're working through the strategy for artwork in the park and MLK Streetscape project, we really want you to take this opportunity to start thinking about the history or buildings that you would like to recognize in East Stewart, where we could do the memorial marker. For instance, if the committee wants to recognize a specific building that had a historical significance and is no longer there, let's work together to provide the image to staff and some narrative, and we can we can create this monument marker, and staff's responsibility will be to fabricate and make sure that the CRA board approves budget to get that implemented. But really, we really need the board to discuss as a whole what site you want to recognize, what building you want to recognize, and provide those image and narrative. And staff will put together the draft that we can share with you at another meeting, and we can continue to recognize different buildings throughout the community while we're still working through some of the art components for the park. And so that concludes my presentation, and I would like the board to discuss how you would like to implement the historic marker.
Board members?
The aspect about the historical markers, a lot of the building that has been torn down is a very important idea, especially in my area. So being with me being grown up in that area there as a kid, there's a lot of historical building that has been lost on Martin Luther King and that general area. Because I'm very aware of that being raised up in that area there, and it's a lot of stuff that should be recognized on that street and around that area. Even on my street, as a little kid, I used to walk up to the dry cleaner as a little kid and watch the man dry clean clothes there. And then around the corner by me, Martin Luther King Park, was a tailor there, and they catered. They used to cater. He did the dry cleaning. Mr. White did the tailoring for the whites. They would transport their stuff in. So all this stuff has been torn down, and it's very, very important to this community for that type of stuff to be recognized. And that's a very good idea with that, Ms. Pinal.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we can just start with one building, if the board can agree on, hey, this is the site we want to recognize, provide an image to me and what used to be there, why it's significant, and I can create, we can work with the sign company to come up with the design and the concept, which I can share at the next meeting. But I don't have the images, I don't know what existed. So if the board can discuss today what site you would like to recognize and see if you can somehow get the picture, because that's the hard part. We don't have a historic picture. So that way people don't forget what used to be there and why it was important to the community.
Because take, for instance, the Thompson taxi stand right on the corner of me, you still got the asphalt slab that is still laid there from all those years. It's still there, and then further down by used to be the Dixie Bar, I tried to get them to conserve this, it was a slab, the actual floor there, and I was trying to get them, when they was doing the work on the Mahalda building, I was trying to get them to preserve that little slab there, what they used to call it the dewdrop in, and I tried to get them to not cover that up or tear that up, so the asphalt slab where the tax stand is still there today. Even every day I walk by there, I'm looking at that asphalt there, but I don't know if anybody have a picture of all the buildings that was in that area there, because basically the only thing left is the old Dixie Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Board Member Brinkley. Board Member?
All that there, the art and stuff, that's fine. But my concern, I'm not gonna go there every day, looking at that every day. After a while, it's gonna get old, but it's there, and it's fine for the people who run. My concern is the young people. What have you in that park for the young people who go out there, not to just to look at there, glance at there, and then there's something out there for them to do. 30, 40, 18, 10. So what's out there for them?
Right, so the overall park design we've presented to the community. It has the playground upgrades, it has the track, exercise equipment. It's gonna have like open space where there could be, a farmer's market, different events. We're gonna have a new stage area where there could be events that can be held right there in the park, small and large. We're having two different size stage area. We're going to have the skate park. That was something that was discussed at the last city commission meeting. There's going to be the multi-purpose field, which is going to allow to do a lot of different type of sports. So the overall master plan has a lot of different activities for different age group. This part was something that was brought up as we were developing the master plan for the park, that there was nothing that really told a story of East Stewart. So this is kind of being incorporated based on the feedback we received when we presented the master plan for the park.
Okay, because I'm saying like, you have something out there for the young people, and stuff, they, a little boxing thing, they go out there and box and stuff, or the baseball, baseball and some of the football, some
Oh,
activities.
yes, this is just the second phase of the
Okay,
major master
We
plan.
need stuff out there like that, something to entertain them, keep them, out there, keep them busy doing something. We got to get the young people involved in stuff. And like I say, that's fine, but look out for the other people, because I'm going at, I'm not gonna look at that every day. I'm gonna
Right,
look
this
at it
is-
and check it, and I wanna go on the exercise machine and exercise or something, or walk, see something else, or watch the kids doing this and doing that, you know?
Yeah, this is not a standalone project. This is incorporated within the park. So whoever is visiting the park will have an opportunity to see the artwork and also learn about the history.
Okay,
Thank you.
I have a question. This is our last meeting of the year, correct? So we're going to, Madam Chairman, are we going to meet before the end of the year to start putting together the historical documents, the location of historical sites in the East Stewart community, houses? We're going to have a possible workshop or a meeting to start collecting these pictures and
Well-
and document and historical documentation?
Well, I mean, I think that can become overload with just a lot, because I've received a lot of information. At this point, I want the board to discuss one site. Let's pick one, and let's see which one you want to implement, and it'll be where we, you know.
When are we going to, at our next meeting in January or before the end of the year?
Well, the goal was to discuss it today and select a site or a building that the board would like to move forward with. And the next meeting, the board can bring images, narrative, something for that site.
Thank you, Board Member, Mr. Harvey. And I just want to comment and add maybe to that, or understand what you just said. I did at our last meeting in July, I sent an email to the city manager and Ms. Pennell asking for us to have a special meeting. I think it must have got some way mistranslated. They thought I was trying to create a new building or a new concept. And I was asking for that purpose because we only meet 4 times a year. And that's just not enough time as we're moving now actively into the different phases. So I don't know if I'm understanding Mr. Board Member Harvey correctly, and I don't know if they understood me correctly. Because all I was saying is, can we have this committee meet in between those intervals of 4 months out of the year? This is a working tool that we're going to start implementing, if I'm understanding it correctly, starting next year. And I think I have pictures, I have things, but for us to sit here and do this in 10 minutes, pick a building, pick a site, you're rushing us and you're cramming this down our throats to try to get this done quick on your timeline. And I think that's unfair. We're only meeting 4 times a year. We need more time. Oh, I'm sorry. But thank you, Attorney.
Sure. Again, Lee Baggett for the record. I'm looking at the bylaws, and regular meetings are on a quarterly basis, but the bylaws do allow special meetings may be held at the discretion of the board as necessary. So
And that's all I wanted.
you can
I
request
asked, they said no. I'm sorry to speak
No, it's all
over
right. You have the option of having special meetings in between the quarterly meeting.
That's what I wanted to know. And
The
I-
regular meetings are automatic. Special meetings are only at discretion of the board, so.
Well, how can we?
Discretion of the board.
This board.
Correct, yep. Special meetings may be held at the discretion of this board, as necessary. You guys are obviously giving opinions that it's necessary to have another special meeting, so
Okay,
I would suggest that someone make a motion,
okay,
second, and then you vote.
all right,
That you
thank
want to
you,
have a special meeting, and I would identify a specific month or a date that you want to have that meeting.
thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Attorney. That makes sense. My heart feels better.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we have a special meeting in the next 30 days, within the next 30 days, to sit down and discuss.
I second that.
A motion's been made for a meeting, special meeting, in the next 30 days,
I second that.
and it's been seconded by Board Member Mr. Brinkley. And we need them.
You could do an all in
All
favor.
in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposes? All right, we have it approved that we can set that up.
Can I get Mr. Cooper and Mrs.
Yes.
Brinkley to
Oh,
say
I'm
A
sorry.
on the
Yes.
mic, please?
Yes, yes.
Mrs. Brinkley, would you like to vote yay for the motion? Yes?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you, Mr. Board Member, Mr. Harvey. And I just think that we need, thank you, Attorney, because you really made that clear. We would have had meetings prior, but I think it got misunderstood when I presented it to Ms. Pinal and the city manager. But thank you for clearing that up, very much so. Thank you.
And just so the record's clear, you want to come back and discuss what buildings, because you don't
Yes.
feel prepared today on.
Yes,
so,
we need
Within the
time.
next 30
And
days
then within
before-
the next 30
Right.
days.
But
We
it-
can't do it now.
Right. So we'll set one up. Obviously, we have to comply with the statute and provide public notice and all.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir.
Sure.
All right. Well, I had a few things on the, one main thing I want to say, because I don't see that timeline that you had up there with the dates on there. I don't see that in this package where, you had at the, kept looking. Do you have that page with the year and the dates and the timeline? That was the last page up
Proposed.
there? Yeah, that one. Do you have that for us to take a look at? It's not in our
Was
package.
this, I don't know if this, was this presentation included? It is included, right? I updated that, the timeline since the package was prepared, yes.
Can we get copies of it? I'd love to have
Sure,
a
yeah.
copy. Each board member.
And there's those 6 objective.
Right, and then again, sometimes these dates change because it depends on the consultant and how we're moving forward with the design. So, these are not concrete dates, just know that it could fluctuate a little bit.
That's okay. I just like to be able to look at it. And are we starting phase 1 in July, in 2025? Well, is that what I'm understanding, that we're gonna, now is that time to start phase 1?
Right, so the original scope of work, which included all the other components that I mentioned, the playground, multipurpose field, the open space area, the track, all that is part of original scope of work.
Okay.
And that's what the 60% design is, and we expect to complete that by end of this year. So the permitting for that design would be in summer. So we have to go through the permit process, we have to go through RFP process to hire a contractor to actually construct the project. So that is expected sometimes in 2025, and it's in the budget.
It's in the budget, okay. Thank you for answering that question. I know I have a few more, but for the sake of time, I'm going to table those thoughts. And then, since we're going to have that special meeting, if all board members are okay with that, we will stand to have the meeting adjourned if there are no more comments from the board. No more comments from the board. Let me follow procedures here. Okay, so that was the action items, staff update, and we are officially adjourned. Thank you.
There you go.
All right,
Good evening.
good evening.
A lot of good stuff going on. I think the community needs to come out to these meetings because there's just so much going on that people don't see. And the only thing they see are the results, and they don't know what goes into into the meetings and into the decision making. So I just want to congratulate you guys for doing a great work, and thanks to the city for allowing this to happen. It's good work. However, briefly, I just want to throw in one thing. What we talk about, and you guys just talked about the historical information regarding businesses in the community. And it was stated that some of the businesses and our significant buildings were demolished for one reason or another. And that's true. Stuart, East Stuart particularly, has a rich history in business, all kind of things that I don't even know about that was there before me that somebody brought up. But I just want to bring up also, you have a historic building in the Willie Garrett property. That is a historic property in the community. It was a business property. And just as we look back and we try to reminisce about our business history in the community and putting up markers and everything for it, you have a building now. You don't need to put up a marker, it's there. And it'll be a great idea for the committee and for the board to consider that as a historic property also. And know the significance of, we're just talking about old buildings that were torn down, and now we're gonna tear down one that we have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Christie, and thank you. We'll review that again at our next meeting. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.